that we had this really passionate fan base. And we decided that the best thing to do would be, we called it this, we wanted to build a mecca for the community to come together, and film festivals seemed like the best way to do it.
Charlie, how did you approach this idea of, I mean, how are you going to do it? How are you going to make it happen?
Yeah, I didn't know at all what I was doing, and it was scary. We were lucky to have Bill and Stella Pence as advisors who started the Telluride Film Festival, and they gave some great advice. And then it was just making phone calls and asking, you know, who do I talk to at studios about getting them printed their films? Where do I get the rights to these films? You know, what archives have films? You know, just asking questions which led me from one person to the other. And then, you know, you sit down with a spreadsheet and try to look at how it might lay out, and then try to figure out, oh, we've got 5 slots. What do we want in each slot? How do we sort of decide what's going to go against each other and put that puzzle together? So it was just learning.
Well, one other question I want to ask is, was it always going to be in Los Angeles?
I'll take that, since I went on the scouting trip. There were only a few of us from TCM that went on the scouting trip. It was myself, Tom Brown, and Mike Uchida, and we decided to visit 3 locations in Southern California. And Charlie mentioned Bill and Stella Pence from the Telluride Film Festival, who were really our guardian angels and guides. They're here in this photo. In terms of advising us on thinking about where to have it. And Telluride, which we stole lots from their playbook, is in a very remote location. It's a destination event, but we knew that we wanted to create a destination event. And we're TCM, and we visited Santa Barbara and looked at the amazing historical theaters there. And we thought, this is pretty good, okay, let's continue. And the second spot was Westwood, here in LA. And we looked at that neighborhood, we looked at the Bruin and a couple of other theaters. And by the 3rd day of the trip, we checked into the Roosevelt, and we went across the street, and we were looking up at the Hollywood sign, and at that moment we all knew this is the place we're supposed to be. Like this is where it needs to be. And you know, fortunately, we've been able to use these incredible historic venues here, make it walkable, so that people can come, spend the entire 4 days here, and be together.
I remember that we had really, we shot for the moon in terms of talent. I recall there was an early idea of a guest programmer. I think a certain rock, I think it was Bob Dylan mentioned, I think. we were really going all, who was it?
It's possible.
It's possible. Maybe Bruce Springsteen, I can't remember. But Darcy, once the programming was set, I mean, how did you go about creating a strategy of getting the talent?
Well, keep in mind, the linear network had already been in existence for 15 years, and that was me putting talent on various things. So, and we've been doing an archive project, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. And so we made a lot of friends with the older people, but I worked really closely with Charlie because, and a lot of people had suggestions. We started doing anniversary years and stuff. But I would talk to them, these people are alive. These are people I can get. The problem was, and they trusted us by then, but the problem was, and I say this with all honesty, I would go to them 6 months out and they go, are you kidding me? I don't know if I'm gonna be alive in 6 months. You gotta come to me like 2 months or 1 month before. So the strategy was just, this is a chance for people from all over the world to come and see your movies. And a lot of them were skeptical. I remember Kirk Douglas being very emotional at the crowd that was at Spartacus and how he could fill a theater for such an old movie. But it was a lot of cajoling and gently, you know, trying to talk them into it and waiting until 2 months or 1 month before to get them.
Well, and so Genevieve's always pushing, where's the schedule? Where's the schedule? Because she's got to worry about all the logistics and putting it together. And Darcy's always like, I need more time. And a lot of the films we play are dependent on the talent that we can get. So there's always that tension every year.
Yeah, and some talent could only do it in the afternoon because they go to bed early. And some talent were only nighttime people, and that really affected the schedule. So it was a real give and take, back and forth. And the first festival, I hired an old friend. I used to work at the Letterman Show. An old friend from the Letterman Show who lives here in LA to help me and flew in an elderly woman, but a close friend who worked for ET, because I didn't know how to find, I couldn't do it by myself. I still look back at, how did we pull off that first film festival, which in retrospect was so special and so intimate.
How was it like getting attention and a presence from the journalists and people who write about film?
Well, I mean, TCM's always been a press darling. You know, we were doing it for a long time, as Darcy said. And I was also bugging Darcy for the schedule. Saying, I need something to announce. It's like a candy store. We had so many things to talk about, and just trying to parse those out so that you all would be so excited to come.
Well, let's talk about the specific first year. So this is a photo of the calm before the storm. This is the Blossom Room, taken before we had everybody loaded in. How did you guys feel about that first week, the week of April 22nd? What were some of the...
We're like, wow, we're really doing this?
Yeah. And were you nervous? Were there anything that you didn't know that they would occur the right way? I mean, was there anything left to chance? Was there anything left to chance for this festival?
Well, as my colleagues know, I'm very meticulous and detail-oriented when it comes to the pre-production phase so that we can be prepared when we've got to change things. And we were really flying by the seat of our pants all of a sudden. I'm astonished at what didn't happen.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really went well. And I still remember the first day that pass holders started showing up here at the hotel to pick up their passes, and it was like these people we've been thinking about had suddenly manifested themselves. It was amazing, actually. It felt great.
Well, so this is, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, Jerry Lewis canceled 3 days before the first film festival. And Jerry's famous for canceling. And he'd go, we were supposed to do him in our private screenings in Atlanta. We flew them in. And he called a month out and said, I'm not doing it. You called him directly. We put through to him. Then he called me and said, I'm not doing it. Say goodbye, Darcy. Say goodbye. Say goodbye, Darcy. And he did the same thing with the film festival. I can't come, not doing it. Say goodbye, Darcy.
We'll get to the end of that story in a moment.
As many of you know, he did finally show up.
Yeah.
And for the cruise too.
That's right.
The cruise and the festival.
So this is a snapshot of our production office that first year. We were crammed into tiny little offices that are located still up of course, inside the Roosevelt. This is a young Mark Wins fielding some phone calls. I mean,
Here's our box office the first year, the box office.
That's right. Genevieve, of course,
On my BlackBerry.
On her BlackBerry. This is. There's Charlie on his BlackBerry. And this is a hard at work, very valuable member of our team, Britta Corus, who's been with us since the beginning, tapping on her phone. Darcy, what is this?
This is the schedule in motion. And we had to put it up, and everybody referenced it. Charlie would walk in, Genevieve, when she was in town, the production team that runs the festival lines you up and everything, because the names would always change. And I learned this when I worked at the Tonight Show. They had 4 weeks of this board going out, and I just went, you need a visual. So you see the things in white, the green are the names of the movies, the white are confirmed, the pinks are ideas, the blues are offers out, and on this one we had just begun to assign escorts to talent, which was a very careful, in-depth study. You wanted the right kind of personality for the right talent. It was always changing, and in fact, changed during the festival when people canceled or
Always changes.
always.
And of course, you didn't do it by yourself. I mean, you had
There's the team.
very valuable team members.
This team started the second year. That's Dory Stegman on the left, who comes every year. I always wanted to call her. She's kind of like Samira, but she had a very complicated name, so I just called her Samira. And there's Brandy, who did all the travel.
Who's still with us.
And is still with us, as is Dory. And there's Kristen Hassel from Legal, because we had to get releases, and she's so sweet, and she'd go up to difficult talent and say, "You didn't sign this release," and they would sign it for her. So, and the only person missing from that group has taken the job I had. That's Susan Bizak, and you can see her, the tall brunette with the glasses. She now has the job I had.
So let's talk about some of the specific guests we had on that first year. So starting with this gentleman, Tony Curtis. What was it like? How did you get Tony Curtis for this?
It was easy, because Tony loves to be Tony Curtis in front of people. And he had a long relationship with us. He had done a private screenings. He had done sort of this win Tony Curtis for a day thing. He was Tony, and he was a friend of the family. That's sort of how I conducted business. Was we wouldn't be in business without you, your family. And some people really took to it, like Tony, but by that time Tony was not doing so well. He was sort of failing. I think he died
No,
6 months
ago, yeah.
Yeah, 6 months after.
So there was a magical moment inside the Roosevelt where Tony Curtis ran into Eli Wallach. Gina, you were there. What was that moment like?
I was escorting Eli Wallach, who was already a pinch me moment. We're walking through the Roosevelt just out here, and we bump into Scott and Tony Curtis, and they begin speaking in Yiddish and embracing each other. And I believe they had a few stories about Marilyn Monroe they exchanged as well. So it was truly just a wow. I think we looked at each other and thought, how is this our job?
Yeah, I know. I was feeling the same way because I was assigned to be Eli's talent escort. So I had ridden with him from the hotel in a limousine. It was just me and Eli in the back seat. It was crazy. But the very first thing he said to me was that envelope that he's holding is a birthday card.
From Clint Eastwood.
That's right. When you opened it, it would play the Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
And he was so joyous about it. Anybody who walked up, he'd go, "Look at my birthday card." He was just a darling, and he was there with, wasn't he? And
With his wife.
He was
He was there with his wife.
I think his daughter was there too.
Yeah.
Well, what about, sorry, let's go this way. This young lady,
Oh my God.
Louise Reiner.
How long do we have?
We have a whole hour for
We could have talked a whole hour just on Louise Reiner, but how did we make that happen?
Well, I don't know, because a volcano in 2010 blew up in Iceland, a name I can't even pronounce. There it is. And Louise was in England, and her daughter Francesca came in from Palm Springs, and no flights were coming. Someone found a site where you could see when the planes were traveling. You see the volcano ashes separate. You see zip, 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 boom, it stopped because the volcano would blow up again. So this is where Bill and Stella Pence really helped me, because when the volcano blew up, I said, I give up. I just can't. And they said, no, you gotta keep trying. You gotta keep trying. Well, I arbitrarily moved the plane flight to some day. I think she got in on Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Because
she had planned on walking the red carpet, you said.
Yeah, she was
But
gonna
then it
walk
was
the red
closed.
carpet.
Yeah.
But I just booked a flight. But we had to her daughter was gonna fly to London and bring her back. And when I say her daughter, Francesca's in her 60s, okay? Because Louise was 100. We had to call the doctor's office, the same doctors that handled the Queen handled Louise, and get an insurance. She's okay to travel as long as she travels with somebody. Well, I couldn't get Francesca to her. Francesca's sobbing, and I get this phone call out of the blue, and it's Louise going, "Where is my daughter?" And I'm like, "Louise, we can't fly." "I don't care. I'm coming, but you must find my daughter." And at like 2:30 in the morning, because we worked long hours. Every festival's long hours. It occurred to me, wait a minute, I talked to that really nice office manager at the doctor's office who got me that certificate. It's open in London now. I'm gonna call her and see if she'll fly with her. And she's from a doctor's office, so And I called her and she said, sure. I said, want to be a queen for a weekend? We'll give you a hotel room, a pass, a per diem. All you have to do is, she said, sure. And her doctor said, oh yeah, fine, because they never thought it would happen. Well, the skies parted on the day I had the ticket. And there's Louise. That's how I got her here.
And that's only the start of the story.
That's just the beginning of the story. So tell me about this gentleman on the right of this photo.
So Louise, I think the kindest way to put it is a very self-involved woman. And
I just want to say real quick that Robert warned us about this.
Yes, yes, but I also had word from her daughter. Watch out for mom. And I was told, I went to that Vanderpump, the white, that restaurant in Beverly Hills. We had a lunch plan the next day. I remember coming to the TCM panel saying, Louise is here after that lunch, but her daughter said, you know, Mom really loves it when a handsome man is paying attention to her. So that might help you get what you need from her if she's. So someone called the production office, a guard for this room, and said there's some guy who says he's an actor and he wants to come into TCM but he doesn't have a pass. I said, is he good looking? They said, yeah, he is. I said, hold him. And I ran down and I introduced myself to him. I can't remember his name anymore, but I said, you're an actor. I will give you a tux. You're gonna come to lunch tomorrow. I'm gonna sit you next to Louise, and you're just gonna love her to death. You're just gonna be her. And he said, okay, I can do that. And when we didn't need him, he went to see movies. And we get to the restaurant, and Francesca had warned me, Mom does this funny little rabbit thing when she's happy. You need to look for it. I said, what do you mean a rabbit thing? She said, well, she moves her lips in a funny way. So she sat down next to him, and I said, Louise, this is, let's just call him Clark. I can't remember his name. And he looked at me and he said, oh, it's so wonderful to be here. Well, the rabbit thing is this. And Louise looked up at him and smiled and went, I went, all right, we got her. And so he stuck with us.
Oh man, very
So can
lucky.
I jump to, actually, I don't know if we tell the story about us going to the Wilshire to go find her?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. The two of us went over to the Beverly Wilshire to go say hello to her. I don't know why. Do you remember why?
I can't remember why.
So it was the Saturday night.
To meet her.
Maybe. So we go over there and we ring the bell on her room and she doesn't answer. So after half an hour, and I'm thinking this could be bad. You know?
Yeah, she's 100 years old.
And then we left because I insisted we got to get back. I don't want to leave the footprint. We got to get back there. So the next morning, you came up to me and you said, I am so angry we left when we did. Oh, because you found out what Louise was up to that night.
With Eli
Yes.
and Ann,
Tell that story.
who went to visit her when they heard they were there. They were like two little kids, Eli and Ann, just giggly and happy, and they knew Louise. They went to her hotel room. They started giggling and laughing and telling stories, and they started jumping on and rolling across the bed. The three of them.
So they're having
How
a
cute
party.
is that?
I had no idea that was happening. Yeah. So then the next day, we're slated to have the screening.
And poor Charlie, because it was pushed back 45 minutes because she had.
Poor Charlie, I was at the theater.
So I got in the hotel room. Alexa.
So I just want to say that I find out because you called me and in a very quiet whisper, you tell me you still haven't left the hotel.
Yes.
We're supposed to start in 10 minutes.
And I said, there's a little bit of chaos going on. And Alexa Foreman, is she in the audience? Okay, Alexa, I walk in, her daughter is sobbing. The makeup artist, Brenda, is just standing back, calmly viewing things. Louise grabs me to the porch and says, my daughter is wicked, and you'll find out. And there's Alexa, because she had jammed in a battery. She couldn't hear well. Alexa was on the bed with a tweezers trying to pull that battery out. And I knew we were going to be late. I said, Louise, we've got to leave. Francesca, maybe you should take a different car, because they were really fighting. And I got her, I made sure, do you have everything you need? She said, I have everything I need. I get her in the car, I think I call you, and I say, we're on our way. And we get backstage to the Egyptian, where she does another little pat with makeup and discovers, I left my crochet beanie. And I said, well, you can do it anyhow. I will not go on without my beanie. I mean, this woman was just, was real. And so now we're really behind, and Britta Curris, who does a lot of the, she's great, and
She has been our partner in crime with everything at the Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Club TCM.
In the Roosevelt.
Pool, everything. She's
I hand her Louise's keys. I don't know how she did it, but she got to and from the Beverly Wilshire in less than 20 minutes. It was like, I think they must have run every red light. We put the beanie on her. She's with her love of her life there. who's just hovering so much, I'm like, move over, I gotta talk to her. And she sits down, and Robert Osborne is introducing her, and she's busy holding on to the two men. And he says, Louise Rayner, and everybody's applauding and on their feet, and she's not moving. Genevieve is like,
Yeah, so the two of us were in the wings of the Egyptian,
Yeah.
and the tribute video was playing. So the lights are down, and she's sitting in her wheelchair, but she was like, I'm gonna walk up to the stage. We thought, that's fine, you've got your escorts. And the two men are standing next to her, and Darcy's looking at the screen, and I look over, and it kind of looks like she's beating them off. Like she's like, get away from me. And I turned to Darcy and I said, Louise isn't getting up out of her chair. Like, I don't know what to do.
so I just went like this. I went, Louise. And when you reach out to somebody, they automatically reach you. And I pulled her up gently, turned her around, put her on the arms of the two men, and they knew to walk her to Robert.
Just as the spotlight hit.
Just as
Nick of time. Yeah.